Hello. I have been procrastinating for a long time now to make this video. Basically, I'm going to tell you the short version of my journey with pseudo infertility, and I call it pseudo infertility because I was told that I probably would not conceive because of my age and some of my hormone levels since I was about 40 and a half, which is when I started trying to get pregnant. I'm currently 44 years old and I am almost 36 weeks pregnant. And it was a natural conception with a little help from some medications related to Hashimoto's, which had been undiscovered, of course. And also prednisone because I have autoimmune issues like Hashimoto's, and a spinal cord disease called spinal adhesive arachnoiditis caused by back fusion I had 10 years ago. So I'm going to rewind a little bit and let you know kind of what my journey has been, because I really think that American culture, when women turn 40 or even 35 and above, the whole geriatric bull crap is something that really affects us emotionally, and I think in turn that affects our ability to conceive. So when I started, I was testing things like AMH since I was 36, even though I didn't have a partner, because again, the message is you're 35 and above, you're not going to be able to conceive, or you're going to have a hard time, yada, yada, yada. So a male doctor, when he saw my results, which at the time were like 1.18, which is, 1 is average, basically. Maybe a little below average for what my age was like, you should do IVF ASAP. Now, for anybody who's researched IVF, not exactly the cheapest way to try to have a baby. A lot of people get into severe debt, and newsflash, babies also cost money. So, when you're not having the savings that you need for that, it's gonna be a problem. So long story short, I was testing my AMH pretty much every year. Became kind of a weird obsession to just make sure that I could still do it. And when I was about 39, I thought about getting a donor. I met a really nice man who had really good genes and offered to be my donor. But there was a part of me that just didn't want to do it that way. I really wanted to have a father for my child. I didn't want to have a baby just to have a baby. My whole life I had dreamt of not planning a baby. Planning a baby, not having an oops. But not planning it in the sense of like, I'm just going to have it by myself no matter what. Especially because I have a back injury. That would be really hard to do. So even though I had the offer on the table, I decided to say no. Fast forward a couple months later, I met my partner today, father of my baby, who I love dearly, and who, interestingly enough, is 16 years younger than me, which probably helped. And, everything that I thought couldn't happen did, which is why I'm making this video, because I want you to understand that the power of the mind is really strong. It doesn't mean that everybody who is positive or who, decides that they're going to be able to do it is going to be able to do it, unfortunately. But it's half the battle. So I came upon an author called Julia Indichova. I read some of her books, the first one being Inconceivable. And her story is a little different because she'd already had a kid with no problems before. But it really did kind of light something inside of me that was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I should just try to get as healthy as possible. I don't exactly eat very well. And even though I exercised, it wasn't like a major thing because of my back. So basically, I hired a functional medicine doctor, but I was a little concerned because the prices were really high and it was going to be a lot of time and money. So that was around 2020, around pandemic. And I decided I wasn't going to pay that money because I was a little concerned about some of the billing practices, which she later changed. She later became my doctor, and I'm very grateful because I'm sure that I got pregnant because of her. But at the time, I decided to stop. And then in May of 2021, I actually got pregnant for the first time. I can't even describe the excitement when I saw those 2 lines. But at the same time, there was a part of me that knew that pregnancy wasn't gonna go the way that I wanted it to go. I don't know if it's motherly instinct, but a few days later I started bleeding. And I'm not religious, really. I am kind of spiritual, and it was really weird because I went to the beach to walk that day to kind of just try to accept what was happening. And I was walking back from the beach and I saw some random rose petals on the beach floor. There's no roses anywhere around there. And I don't know, I took that as a sign, like, you know, it is what it is, and at least now I know I can get pregnant. So my boyfriend and I kept trying, but at one point he decided he was done trying, that he didn't know if he wanted to keep trying, and I had to accept that because I love him. And part of me, I think, was thinking, you know, you're almost 42 years old. I was 2 months from being 42 when I first got pregnant. And there's just nothing you can do. This is out of your control. One of the things that Julia Nichova taught me through books, and I actually went to a workshop or 2 of her, was that you have to let go. Sometimes we try to control every little thing, and that's just not how life works. And I should know that. I'm a psychologist. But, you know, rational brain is one thing. I call it the Olympic sprinter. And your emotional brain, I call it the, you know, blind one-legged man trying to race the Olympic sprinter. So I took a step back. And then a couple months later, he decided he did want to keep trying, that it was, you know, he wanted to be with me, and he knew that I wouldn't be with him if I wanted to have children. I wanted to keep trying. So he kept trying, and 10 months later, when I was 42 years old, I got pregnant again. Sorry, it's a little hard for me. Maybe it's the hormones because I'm pregnant now, but this was last year, 2022, March of 2022, tested positive. I thought it was going to go well. That weekend was one of the best weekends of my life. But when I tested my HCG, which anybody who's ever tried to get pregnant knows is the pregnancy hormone, it needs to double every 2 days or so. It did. The first 48 hours was perfect that weekend. But then it started rising really slowly. And my OBGYN was very honest, very kind as well in the way that she told me. But basically told me that it wasn't looking good. So I had a sonogram. I was about 4 weeks along. So I just saw a little tiny dot. And she's like, okay, let's come back next week, see, you know, if it's grown. And it had grown. I had a gestational sac, but there was no fetal pole or anything, and it was still early. So we did a couple more sonograms throughout the month of March. But unfortunately, an embryo never grew. So, and I don't know why I knew it was a boy, even though I never was able to confirm it because I did a DNC at the end of March of 2022. I had started bleeding the day of the scheduled DNC. I just didn't want to go through the trauma of miscarrying at home. I'd been through a lot already, and I never thought I would have a medical abortion ever. I'm pro-choice, 100%. But for myself, I was always very clear and adamant that if I ever got pregnant, no matter what, I was gonna have that kid. So it was very hard for me. I did it under general anesthesia because I just didn't want to remember anything about it. And my boyfriend told me that I asked the same question 3 times when I was waking up for anesthesia. Is it over yet? Did they take him already? And unfortunately, the tissue couldn't get tested. They couldn't figure out anything, so it was just decided that it was a miscarriage. That months after that, I focused on playing basketball, which is something I used to do as a teenager. It gave me some joy, something to look forward to, but then, of course, I took it a little far and started having back issues again. Kept working with my functional medicine doctor. At the time that I got pregnant with my second baby, I had a TSH of 2.5, which is kind of the highest allowed to get pregnant, or at least recommended allowed. And most doctors don't test you for the rest of the thyroid panel, which she did. It's kind of how she found out I had Hashimoto's in the first place with the antibodies and all that. But long story short, I kept working on stabilizing my thyroid and getting healthy. I took a bunch of supplements, COQ10, NAC. Man, I can't even remember. There's so many of them, and I'll probably just do follow-up videos depending on what people think they need. But yeah, basically I went on a gluten-free diet, which was very hard. I freaking love bread and pasta. I went dairy-free for the most part, except for Parmesan cheese. I can't give that up. Well, Parmigiano Reggiano specifically. But anyway, I digress. Exactly 12 months later, March 14, 2023. Well, let's say March 13, 2023. I had a really weird craving that night. I wanted roasted red peppers with garlic and apple cider vinegar. It's a little salad that I learned to do in Spain when I lived there. And I had craved the same exact thing for my first 2 pregnancies. So I remember telling my boyfriend, I think maybe I'm pregnant. And he looked at me very skeptically like, it's too early. Because it was, that night would have been about 8 days post-ovulation. And I had, part of my process has been to test my LH with strips and take my basal body temperature with like a thingy that you put on your arm, because I have overactive bladder, so I have to go to the bathroom a lot. And then what happened was the next day I was like, I'm gonna test. And he was like, don't do it, it's too early. It was 9 days post-ovulation, or 10. That line came up before the pee even got through the stick. And I was shocked. I remember being like, look. And his face was like, oh. Right? Because we'd already been through this 2 times before. And at this point, I was 43. So, unlikely age to get pregnant. And, my mind kind of had this kind of flashback of all the things that I'd gone through to try to get pregnant. Another IVF doctor that I had seen that gave me a packet of statistics that were super grim. Another male doctor, actually. I had to have 2 different hysteroscopies. One of them was really painful because I wasn't under general anesthesia. The second one was under general anesthesia. Before that, I had tested my tubes. Anybody who's done an HSG test knows that it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. And my tubes weren't clogged or anything. So like I'd gone through a bunch of stuff that made the whole thing very difficult and painful. And I spent money on that stuff. So even though it was a natural conception, and I remember my LH was the highest it had ever been that cycle. We'd just come back from a trip to Spain because I was like, I'm done just focusing on pregnancy. I need to just go have fun and live my life. And I remember being like, oh, let's try just in case, without really expecting anything. And then it actually happened. So I immediately contacted my functional medicine doctor and my OBGYN. And this time my functional medicine doctor had been doing some research that I'd been doing myself about, people with autoimmune issues and natural killer cells. And I'd already gotten an order actually from my pain doctor, because I wanted to check these natural killer cells because I had a feeling that something was attacking my fetuses or my embryos. And I was right. The natural killer cells came up high. We did the test. My functional medicine doctor put me on 20 milligrams of prednisone immediately. And I really think that saved my pregnancy. I used to also take natural thyroid because I used to react very violently to like Synthroid. But at that point, I had already started a transition towards Synthroid because the reproductive endocrinologist I'd seen, who was a male, the one male who was like, don't do IVF, it's not worth it. You've gotten pregnant before. Just keep trying. You'll probably get pregnant again. Do the hysteroscopy. Very grateful for that doctor. Basically, they were like, okay, just take the prednisone, take some baby aspirin. Let's put you on Synthroid, because if I ever did donor eggs, I was going to have to be on Synthroid. And I really thought that, if I'm not pregnant by 44, I'm going to try donor eggs, which I wasn't sold on, but I still wanted to be a mom. So got on all of that, was testing my blood all the time. Those first 6 weeks, were really, really hard because, as I endearingly call my second baby, Saquito, which is little sack in Spanish, that's what my mom called it, I'd only been pregnant for 6 weeks and 5 days. So anybody who's lost a baby knows that getting pregnant after loss is super difficult. And I knew I had my age and my back and my Hashimoto's and basically I got pregnant against all odds. And 6 weeks passed, 7 weeks passed, got to 12 weeks, 13 weeks. She moved in every sonogram since she was 8 weeks. We heard a heartbeat at 5 weeks and 6 days, which was insane. She was just like a blob, like a little line blob, and she'd already had a heartbeat. She has reassured us the whole time. She's a very active baby. We've seen her grow through so many sonograms. We've been lucky that, our doctor has monitored her. Then came the NIPT at around 10, 11 weeks. And I was super nervous because, of course, the other scary part is chromosomal difficulties and Down syndrome and trisomies and all these different things. And I was like, whatever. I just want to know. We took a sneak peek test at 6 weeks. 5 weeks, 6 days. And it said it was a girl, which I had a feeling it was a girl. And NIPT test came back all low risk. So that was super incredibly exciting and reassuring, but still super scared deep inside. But then something kind of magical happened. I just kind of let go and enjoyed the little moments of triumph. And so I started writing every single milestone down on a whiteboard. I still have them. I'll probably show you in another video. And basically made it to 20 weeks. We did the halfway point mega ultrasound study, which is the anatomy scan. She was perfect. Everything was perfect. She's always been 50th percentile pretty much for everything except her legs. She's kind of tall. It's probably her dad's fault. I'm pretty short. I'm Puerto Rican. And basically, they told me I had something called a velamentous cord. But that in the way that the cord is inside of me, it's on top of the placenta rather than on the bottom, which is where it gets problematic if it's covering the cervix, the placenta and stuff, because you can get placenta previa. And so they were like, we're just going to check you again at 32 weeks. Did a little research, didn't really panic very much. I mean, I was a little scared, of course, but because I need a planned C-section under general anesthesia, because when you have arachnoiditis, epidurals can actually augment or increase the amount of adhesions you have, which is basically more scar tissue, which is what causes neuropathy. It's a very painful condition, but very little people know about it. So I can't have a spinal. I can't have an epidural. Natural childbirth could also make it worse. So, my OB and I decided that as sad as it is that neither my boyfriend or myself are going to be able to see her be born, we're going to do, a planned C-section at 39 weeks. That decreases also the chance of stillbirth because of my age. So time keeps going by. She keeps growing. 32 weeks comes around. They couldn't even see the placenta clearly, let alone the cord. We know the placenta is posterior. She's apparently in the perfect place to have a C-section, or if I wanted to give natural labor. There was one time at around, I think it was like 30 weeks or something, where I got a little bit scared. I had a little tiny bit of bleeding. I freaked out. Doctor saw me the next day. We don't even know what that was. I did have a hematoma at the beginning, like first trimester, but it slowly went away, which was awesome. I also had a cyst in my ovary, but can't even see the ovaries anymore for some reason. So basically everything that was a little bit scary started dissipating, and now I can barely move. I waddle. It's definitely not easy physically, or energy wise. I was lucky enough that, recent studies show that Adderall do not have any teratogenic effects on the fetus, and I have ADD, so I really needed to continue my medication regimen. And then naprotechnology studies apparently also have shown that it could prevent miscarriage. So I've been on my Adderall 20 milligrams extended release the whole pregnancy. I will stop next week though, at 36 weeks. And so, I've had to take some meds here and there for the different things, my conditions, definitely on Synthroid the whole time. I take Wellbutrin for the ADD and to prevent my depression, because I have had depression before and anxiety. And pregnancy has been pretty textbook in every other way. So I wanted to do this video for all those women out there who've been told it's never going to happen for you. You need IVF, especially with the statistics for IVF are not very high. It's like a super mega gamble. It's not for everybody. Sometimes we have to let go. We have to take breaks. As long as we're having a period, there's a chance. There is a chance. And statistics are statistics. You are a unique individual. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen for everybody, because I wish it would for everybody that wants a baby. But I really, deep inside, never lost the hope that I was going to be a mom. I knew that I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid, and I knew I wanted to be a mom. Those were the two things. I knew I wanted a good father for my child. I knew I wanted to not have an oops. And I got it. Is it manifestation? Is it this, that? I don't know. I didn't do bulletin boards or any weird things like that. But I kept an open mind and a realistic outlook, but a hopeful one. So if you're seeing this video and if you have made it this far, where I've been just telling basically my whole pregnancy story, there might even be a reason for that. I don't know. But I really hope that you get your baby. If you've never been pregnant, I hope you see those 2 lines. If you've gotten pregnant before and lost your babies, I am so sorry. It doesn't matter if it was a week. It changes you forever. This is our double rainbow. I am still terrified in a way. I just want to have her in my arms. And even though I feel her move every day, and we've seen pictures of her, and I know she's healthy, and I'm doing really well. Weirdly enough, she kind of healed me, probably temporarily through the pregnancy, but I'm just grateful that I have 3.5 weeks left before I get to meet her. And I don't allow my brain to go into the darkness of what ifs that are negative, because I've had a lot of reassuring signs. Oh, she's moving right now. And that's what I'm sticking with. So don't lose hope. Yes, you have to be proactive. You might have to spend some money investigating if you have autoimmune issues, you know, if you have thyroid problems. It all comes down to health. It's not about age, it's about health. So here I am, 44 years old, pregnant with my 3rd child, hoping this is the first one earthside. If you have any comments or questions, I'll try to answer them if you put comments on this video. But please keep in mind that I have ADD and I'm pregnant. So sometimes I get a little overwhelmed and, you know, procrastinate. But I really wish the best for all of you. And thank you for watching this video. All right, till the next one.